Today I messed up by calling my driving instructor Pete for the past 8 months. I found out today that his name is definitely, in fact, Steve. I only realized because I got up the driving school page to recommend Pete to a co-worker. For further context, every time I've gotten into this man's car I've greeted him with a "Hey Pete," and every time I've left I've said "Goodbye Pete." I've had easily 20 or 30 lessons worths of calling this poor man Pete when his name is Steve, and somehow, even though he is messaged every time with his real name, I've brainlessly carried on calling him Pete like a moron. I do not know how I'll face him next lesson. Today I messed up by going through a girlfriend's phone. Pretty sure my long-term live-in GF who we share a baby with, is cheating on me with her ex. We have been fighting recently, and while her ex was in town, she asked me to leave the house, right before she put our baby down for a nap. I had a feeling she was cheating on me, but didn't know what to do, so I left the house. A couple days later, I went through her phone so I could know the truth. The day she asked me to leave, had 0 texts to her ex. But it did say the day, with nothing underneath, meaning she texted him that day but deleted the texts. But the day before she asked me to leave, she texted her ex and forgot to delete them. The text read, "My name is gone. Baby's name is asleep. Why? Which means where you at?" I took her out for coffee, and confronted her about it in the car. She said she told him that I was gone and baby was asleep, to let him know that she couldn't leave the house. And he needed to come over to pick up soccer equipment for the son they share. That happened 6 months ago and we were struggling super hard financially. Now 6 months later, after a lot of hard work in sales, I'm in the best financial position I have ever been in. And she swears nothing happened and she wants to be with me forever. I have a suspicion that she's been cheating on me for years and I just blindly trusted her. And now that I don't blindly trust her, we get in fights about once a week. Mainly fighting about her cheating, and things I overlooked when I trusted her. For example, why does she have bruises on her knees after I get home from a business trip? Why is the chandelier that's just over the end of our bed broken while I was gone on a different business trip? Today I messed up by not opening a gift from a stranger from the internet. Back in 2021 I had received a package from a man I met on Reddit. We had been chatting back and forth inconsistently and at times would do little exchanges since we couldn't see each other. He'd pick out candles and send them to me, I'd bake cookies and send them to him. Stuff like that. I honestly do not even remember the impetus for him to send this package. Maybe college graduation? Anyway, I get this ginormous infrared sauna blanket on my doorstep and I'm easily overwhelmed and I have ADHD. Let's just say this whole box got shoved in a closet somewhere after I had barely opened it just to confirm that there was, in fact, something resembling a sauna blanket in its original packaging, so I didn't sound stupid when I said thank you. Of course I texted him expressing my gratitude, like oh my goodness that is so thoughtful. Yes, I use it all the time now. It's basically a self-care go-to. All the shit you would say to someone who got you a gift you don't use and have not opened. It got left in its box for over 2 years, and now, here I am, opening the box all the way for the first time to see if it still works because now I do infrared sauna sweats at studios. Figured this could finally have a use case. Well, not only did I discover a note in the box I hadn't seen before, I also discovered another box. This man had also sent me a really nice vibrator and TIFU on several counts, realizing I had not opened this box sooner. The sauna blanket itself and also just being grateful and polite. The high-quality vibrator I've been missing from my life for 2 years. The fucking note confirming what a catch this guy was and eventually losing contact with someone that was able to assess my needs so well. Today I messed up by trying to figure out a woman. So I, 25 male, am in college and a couple semesters back I had a number of classes with this girl, and ended up working on a lab together. Found out her apartment complex was across the street from mine. We became friends and started studying together and hanging out. We were just friends. I was pursuing a different person from one of the classes we had together, and she was super into my roommate, and almost regularly asked if I could help her get together with him. He wasn't interested though. Eventually she dropped it. Early in the friendship, she would randomly talk about boobs or vagina. Not in a sexual way but like, the kinda stuff you might find in a Women of Reddit What Do You Wish Men Knew About X thread. Like I used to be a fat kid, like morbidly obese, took some time after high school to work and save money doing grueling labor and lost like 130 pounds. In college not working all day I noticed I was putting some weight back on. She was getting ready for a 5K and invited me to join her. I agreed if nothing else to get some exercise, and I made some joke about how since I put on some weight I might need a sports bra. And she started talking about how one wasn't always enough, she is rather busty, and how running without one can hurt. Stuff like that. Anyway, as time went on, I was noticing I was touching her boobs a lot, not on purpose mind you, but like at one point we were watching TV I was sitting on her right, I asked for the remote because whatever was on was something brain dead and I wanted to change the channel. She was offering it with her left head she had in front of her chest. When I went to grab it she moved her hand away. AMD as you guess I got a handful. I pulled my hand away and apologized, I'm not into randomly molesting PPL. And she didn't even acknowledge it happened. I figured she was just so caught up in playing keep away with the remote she hadn't noticed, or in the very least realized it was her fault and wanted to drop the whole thing. Either way, it started happening often and I told myself it must be a downside of big boobs, they accidentally touch everything. But then it started being more and more deliberate. Like she was learning to play the guitar, she brought it over so she could go to practice afterwards. At this point we weren't in the same class anymore, but we still studied together because my minor is her major and she would help with my more simplistic version of what she was learning. So after tutoring me essentially, she put on her guitar, she had a chest strap for it, and decided it was hanging kinda low. She decided the best course of action was she holds the guitar in the position she wants it while I tighten the strap conveniently resting on her breasts. At this point I'm confused, but whatever, maybe she felt bad for me so was low-key giving me some boob to make me happy. But at the same time she was talking about boobs and vagina a lot more. Like she'd come over complain about camel toeing in her yoga pants and her labia making it uncomfortable and so she had to adjust and etc. etc. Some days it was all we talked about. Or one day we were hanging out and she just starts rubbing her boobs acting like it's the most normal thing. I asked her if she wants some privacy, and she apologized and said she's on her period and the hormones makes her boobs hurt and so she runs them to make them feel better. And I don't mind, right? It got old fast. So it got to point where it was just uncomfortable to be around her. I enjoyed her company, she was really smart and great to talk to generally, but at some point her boobs would be thrust upon me and a nice conversation about said boobs leaving me feeling skeevy. No one has any clue what her deal is so I decide to ask her. So we met up today and I was greeted with a thrilling story of how hard her nipples got in the lab. It's just too cold. And so I asked her something along the lines of, not to embarrass you or anything, but I noticed you always seem to find a way to put your boobs on me, and you always talk about them or your vagina. You said you aren't interested in me and I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. Admittedly I was nervous so it most definitely wasn't as thought out as that, but that's the basic gist. She said she had noticed that was happening and she was sorry and thought I liked when we talked about boobs and stuff. She said she'd be more careful and we hung out a little bit but she found some excuse and left pretty soon after. I figured I embarrassed her and she wanted to be alone, so thought nothing of it. Well, a few hours later I get a text from her, telling me I'm a disgusting breast-obsessed pervert. The only reason I pretended to care about her was to bed her. Her mom thinks she should get a restraining order. Her roommate feels like she should report me for a myriad of things, but out of respect for our once friendship she's just going to block me on everything and cut me out of her life. To add insult to injury, me roommate bumped into her and told me she said she couldn't be my friend anymore because I'm too perverted. Today I messed up by realizing I destroyed an art piece in a gallery 10 years ago. While this event happened 10 years ago, I literally just realized an hour ago what I actually did. In 2014 I was just completing my master's degree in design. Now, the way the degree was set up, it was one course of 40 people, but we were all doing different areas. Dance, architecture, sculpture, textiles, everything and anything. We'd have lectures together, and present the progress on our projects every couple of months. So end of year comes around and we start setting up our final gallery show. The space we were using was the first year art students' workshop, which we cleared out and prepped and painted fresh. When I arrived to do my part, one wall is a mess. Like 100 holes all over it, like a hammer and knife attack. I was pissed that a first year did this to a structural wall, and grabbed the sandpaper, filler and paint to fix it. The show went ahead fine with a warning wet paint sign on that section. I think you can tell where this is going. You know how your brain suddenly reminds you of things out of nowhere? Like shit, my laundry. Or our guy forgot to pay that bill. Well, I'm sat in bed today and suddenly realize, fuck. That was Anna's master degree piece. You see, Anna was a part-time mature student on different hours to the rest of us. We saw one presentation of her work which was about making repeated holes/cuts into paper/card. I never thought about it much again. She must have come in before the rest of us, created the wall piece for the show, and left. And I'd gone to filled it and painted it away. To be fair, she never left any note or name on the piece. I don't even know if she knew what happened to it, since it's not like she would need to come back to collect it after the show since it was, you know, a wall. If she did, I hope she saw humor in it and added it to the piece's story. Humans crave to repair damage, etc. Either way, I'm now silently cringing and may need to repent to the art gods lest karma strike me.